The past year has been fantastic for internet mysteries, so I thought today, since it's Christmas, would take a look back at some of the best mysteries that I've covered here on the channel. I'll be back with brand new content next week, so don't miss that. Thank you for clicking on this video, and without further ado, enjoy this compilation. If you're a fan of mystery, icebergs, or conspiracy theories, then you've probably heard about something called the 2006 Volleyball Incident. The story goes that in 2006, an unnamed assailant would enter a high school volleyball court and open fire. But the strange part comes with the fact that there is little to no information about this incident on the internet. However, people in the surrounding area to where this supposedly happened stand their ground that this did happen, and they seem to remember every detail. Searching for the phrase 2006 volleyball incident on Google will return under 1,000 results, showing how obscure this conspiracy really is. The main mentions of the phrase come from 4chan, Reddit, and iceberg charts, but no one seems to be able to provide a concrete answer as to what happened. Despite that, some key facts have been decided upon. There was an attack during a high school volleyball game in either Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Oregon, Montana, or Utah. The list of states seems to be narrowed down to either Nebraska, South Dakota, or North Dakota, as those seem to be the ones that pop up most often. It is claimed that between 17 to 24 people lost their lives that day, and that one of two things happened afterwards. One possibility is that there was news coverage of the event, but it was kept local and never went mainstream. The second possibility is that no information was ever made public, and news outlets were told not to cover it, and the victims were forgotten about over time. The second one leans much more into the conspiracy side of things, as some people even suspect government involvement, but if I had to pick one of these options, I would go with the first one, as it would explain why people in the surrounding areas seem to remember the event, but the rest of the world has no recollection. People continue to claim that law enforcement tampered with evidence and records due to the lack of information about this event online. If you try to search for it, no news articles appear, and no matter how hard you search, you will find no obituaries that make mention of the slaying. The story continues as people claim that you can find lots of information about this on the dark web. However, it seems as if some people have looked for it there and still nothing turned up, so I can safely say that this is likely a false lead. The theories surrounding who carried out the attack are also very interesting. From my research, a lot of people believe that members of the United States government were in attendance that night to end a target. However, at some point things took a turn and people were caught in the crossfire. Others claim that a hired assassin was responsible for the attack and that the situation was the same in that the other attendees were simply collateral damage. So with all the information laid out for you, let's go over the theories. The first theory is that this actually happened and that it was covered up by the government due to their assassination plot spiraling out of control. The theory goes that there was someone at the game that night who the government considered dangerous. They took their chance, but civilian casualties occurred, and thus they created a plan to erase all records of the incident and paid the families of victims to keep their mouths shut regarding the event. The next theory states that the 2006 volleyball incident is actually an extreme case of the Mandela effect, and for people who aren't really into the government conspiracy side of things, this is what they will choose to believe. The reason I say this is an extreme case is because, like I mentioned before, mass amounts of people in the surrounding area reportedly remember the attack happening and can give specific details about it. This could just be false information, however, as I am yet to see a post by someone who vividly remembers it, but supposedly they exist, just not on the internet. Some people believe that the 2006 volleyball incident was actually confused with the 2014 attack at a volleyball game in Afghanistan. 45 people had their lives taken and 60 others were injured after a man blew himself up in the middle of a volleyball game. Considering there are no mentions of the 2006 incident on the internet until 2017, it could definitely be the case that this is what people were thinking about. However, if that were the case, what happened to cause the multiple year difference from 2014 to 2006? The next theory ties in with the first result that comes up should you search for 2006 volleyball incident without putting it in quotes, and that is the Platte Canyon High School hostage crisis. The Platte Canyon High School hostage crisis occurred in September 2006 when a 53-year-old man would take 7 female students hostage. He was them before allowing 6 of them to leave. He would take the life of one girl before ending his own. The incident occurred in Colorado. Is this a case of misremembering remembering? Or is this a different incident entirely? You'll get completely different answers depending on who you ask. The final theory states that the entire story was made up and is simply another case of an internet hoax. Surprisingly enough, this one actually has something to back it up. When you put the search term into Google, the earliest mention you'll be able to find is from 2017, from a comment made in a thread on the website above Top Secret. The comment reads, "Something I came across recently that is just a prank, but it's a cool idea and story. The 2006 volleyball incident. Supposedly, there were multiple on a certain day in 2006. The attacks all took place in tiny towns with very small populations during high school volleyball games. The attacks were then erased from all public record and only a few people remember them happening." With this, I'm inclined to believe this comment that the whole thing was fabricated, as it is the earliest mention available nowadays, and this user seems to know where it stemmed from. It makes the most sense that it is simply a hoax, as there are no records of the attack, and it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility to think that some people started to believe that this was true if they didn't have the original context that it was made up. It's quite unlikely that the government would successfully keep an attack as big as this top secret for all these years, and even more unlikely that they could convince the families of victims or onlookers to keep quiet. Even in 2006, I think if something like this had happened, news outlets around the country would have jumped to cover this, as it would have been seen as extremely important information to relay. So even the theory that it was only covered locally is unlikely, because I'm sure it would have been picked up by someone relevant in the mainstream media. I don't blame people for believing this was a case of the Mandela effect, as the brain can work in strange ways, and information can get convoluted over the years. At the end of the day, it seems as if this was yet another internet hoax, but a very interesting mystery nonetheless. In July 2023, a Redditor would post to the Internet Mysteries subreddit to ask if anyone remembered a video from the early days of YouTube. In 2009, Opie was left with their dad's open laptop, and curiosity got the better of them as they began to search the video site. Soon enough, they found a video called sunny.avi, and they clicked on it. The video had no music, and all you could hear was a quiet conversation between two people. The video took place in an empty room with a dark blue carpet and lighter walls. There were two people in view of the camera, a young boy and a man who appeared to be his dad. The boy was sitting on a windowsill, and both of them were looking out of the window into the darkness outside. Suddenly, the camera would change angle, and it would now be looking at the ceiling. From the ceiling, the head of a baby doll would be hanging down, with spikes sticking through it. The eyes were protruding from the doll, and apparently, it looked very realistic. Opie says that this gave them nightmares, and that it stuck with them for years to come. In 2019, it got so bad that they were having extreme insomnia because of the video. So now, being an adult, they want to find the video that tormented them as a child, but the problem is, it's like it's vanished off the face of the earth. So, where is sunny.avi? It goes without saying that finding that video is going to be a difficult task, as it dates back to 2009 and it's not necessarily an uncommon title. Carrying out a search for the term sunny.avi will return over 10,000 results, but adding YouTube to the search will cut it down to around 3,000. If we look over the videos that appear, none of them match the thumbnail that Opie describes. But then again, after so long, there is a chance that it has changed, as thumbnails do change all of the time. Still though, I looked over all of the videos that it returned. Yes, all of them. Now, before you think I'm mental, not all of the results are YouTube videos, and some just have mentions of sunny.avi and YouTube in the same sentence from different sites. So, thankfully, I didn't have to look through 3,000 videos, and therefore, I can confirm that all of the videos that show up under the search term of sunny.avi on Google are not the video. From a brief search, I unsurprisingly can't find the video. So, how are the investigators on Reddit doing? Well, they've opened up a whole new can of worms. User NoFing1941 was looking for the video when they stumbled upon a strange website. This is a website they found. On the surface, it seems to just be a site that documents live video feeds from home security cameras, but as we go deeper, we find out that it may actually be a site for the owner to store their files, or maybe something darker. There are 3 pictures on the site that update every minute, and they show a green patch of grass, a similar view from behind a window, and what appears to be a thermostat. These feeds have been updating since 2010, but we can dive deeper into the site. If we add harvest.html to the URL, it takes us to a blank page with a list of email addresses. The emails seem to have nothing in common other than being associated with spam. But it begs the question of why the site owner was storing these emails. It gets stranger though, as if we add Elise to the URL, we get taken to a page that starts by saying, "Nothing to see here, please move along." The page contains 23 photos of French singer Elise Jacotti for seemingly no reason. But the owner implies that he knows other people may stumble upon his site by the text that he puts at the top and bottom of the page. Unsurprisingly, we're not done yet. We can add A, B, C, and 1 to the URL to take us to other pages, and this is where the files have been stored. 1 contains memes, and that's about it. A is photos of pipes, snow outside of a house, and PDFs for mechanics. B contains a zip file for Mario Kart 64, and also this creepy image that returns nothing when put through a reverse image search. And finally, C has only 2 photos that both seem to be of their personal property, so for obvious reasons I won't be showing them here. There's one more URL to take a look at though, and that's videos. If we add videos.txt to the URL, it takes us to a long list of music videos that the site owner had stored in their PC. If we try and find the term sunny.avi in here, it returns exactly 1 result, and that is why the site showed up during the search. The owner of this site did not have the video that OP was looking for, but rather downloaded the song Sunny by Boogie Pimps in the AVI format. And so, I am inclined to say that this site is simply a website that OP is using to host their files. However, admittedly, it is a bit strange as to why they would be constantly uploading home surveillance footage to a website for 13 years. Another question is, what the hell was that creepy image stored in the B URL? Despite the creepiness of this site, it seems that this guy is just a regular man, who is likely a mechanic or someone who takes an interest in airplanes due to some of the other files. I wouldn't say there is much to this part of the mystery, but maybe I'm wrong, time will tell. Back to the topic at hand though, we don't really have any more leads, and so this is the part where I request the help from anyone viewing this video who even vaguely remembers something similar. There is a chance that this video has been deleted from the platform, but if someone else remembers it, then we'll be on the right track to getting an answer. So, if you do think you can help with this search, please leave a comment and join the Internet Mysteries subreddit. If we all come together, maybe we can crack this mystery once and for all, and finally find out the origin of sunny.avi. On the 20th of November, someone would make a post to Reddit saying that they think they had discovered a cult on the popular marketplace Etsy. Let's enter the rabbit hole. While I'm sure most of you know what Etsy is, let me give those of you who don't a very brief overview of what the platform actually is. Etsy as a marketplace allows you to purchase unique items from independent sellers all around the world. You can purchase things such as handmade necklaces, gift boxes, and themed presents for any occasion. Sellers must obey the platform rules and the laws in their country. However, the only rule for actually joining the platform would be to provide some form of identification. Let me introduce you to a user named Lilith Cult. Just by viewing their profile, we can see that they are rated 5 stars after almost 7,000 sales, and they are apparently located in Spain. They have 46 items available to purchase, 45 if we don't include their tip jar, and all of them are some sort of spell or ritual. The prices range from £100 all the way up to £1,000, and some of these goods are truly concerning. Let's take the most expensive product for example, a pact with Lucifer, which Lilith is selling for £1,085 and 9 pence. The description reads, "A pact with Lucifer is the strongest ritual to obtain a desire with the magnitude to change your life forever." A pact to obtain what? You decide. But it is commonly used by very wealthy and popular people, world leaders, politicians, and celebrities. Therefore, the most frequent desires are extreme wealth, health, professional power, fame, or a life-changing relationship or marriage. According to the site, over 20 people have the item currently in their basket, but surely people aren't actually going to go through with the purchase, right? Well, that's where you'd be wrong, as the item has 22 reviews, which you can only write once a product has been received, meaning that these 22 people have actually gone through with this expensive purchase. Most of the reviews are simple, just saying things like, "Hail Lucifer," or thanking the seller. But one in particular is very intriguing, and it's right on the first page. It reads, "Life-changing. She is amazing. My life is transformed in every way. Before I was very insecure and needed constant reassurance, but now, through her work, I've become a completely different person. Even if you think your situation is difficult or have doubts, I respectfully ask that you give her work a chance. Give her your full trust and then watch your life change for the better. I am proof that her rituals help even the most damaged people. I only wish I met her sooner." Not a single one of these reviews is under 5 stars, and it truly seems as if the pact worked for multiple people. Another one of the more interesting spells is the Extreme Wealth spell, which claims that it will capitalize your abilities and create multiple and lasting sources of income, along with the fact that financial failure won't happen to you anymore. This spell comes in at £343.61, and there are 10 reviews. Most of them don't include any text, but there are 2 that do. One says, 5 stars and 100% satisfied, while the other reads, "I haven't noticed anything changing in my financial situation yet, but I'm claiming this spell's success and I trust the process. It is unknown if unimaginable wealth actually came to the buyers, but there has not been a single negative review, so take that how you will." The final spell I'm going to show you specifically is the Demonic Love Binding spell. It costs over £240, and the description is as follows. "This love binding is the most powerful love ritual in our gorgeous black magic Eden. The purpose of this overwhelming dark magic ritual is to bind your target in with you for the rest of their life, and to hold their mind totally and completely captive forever." It's honestly terrifying to think that some people fully believe that this will work, and have no problem spending a decent amount of money for something that may yield no results. One review tells of how their target has been more loving and caring, telling the person how much they miss and love her. Another one reports that their boyfriend's behaviour has changed for the better, and that since the spell was performed, he has become more considerate and caring towards the buyer. If we take a look at all reviews from the shop, it's just pages of 5 star after 5 star. People are saying that they see Lilith as an older sister, with some repeating the phrase, "All hail Lilith." A lot of this seems to involve trusting the process, as she makes it clear that results do take time and won't appear instantly. People seem to put their full trust in her for unknown reasons, and I can certainly see why people think this is a cult, as they seem dedicated to supporting her. People are spending outrageous amounts of money for her services, but are they actually getting a return? While most people believe that black magic is all talk, the whole practice does have dedicated followers from all around the world. Over the years, there have been lots of cases where people suspected that black magic may have been involved, and before 1717, there are reported to have been over 500 suspected witches executed for their practice in England alone. Back to Lilith, she actually recently created a website with the same name as the store. There, we can view her frequently asked questions section, which can give us some more insight into her ways. She claims that she is using advanced demonic magic, which is the strongest practice on earth. She mentions that she does all the spell work and will rarely require additional action from the buyer. We can also create a possible theory as to why people are so confident in her ability, as under a section titled "What Not to Do After One of Her Rituals," she writes, "Common and terrible mistakes include doing other similar rituals around or mixing magical practices after my spell. If you do an obsession ritual with me and you purchase an obsession ritual somewhere else 1 week later, you're clearly showing a lack of confidence in the spell done by me that may ruin everything. Doubt will kill your results. Don't be silly. Feelings of negativity about your spell will create a self-fulfilling prophecy. This could lead people to want to be as positive as possible as to not hinder the results of their spell, possibly explaining the overwhelming amount of 5-star reviews. Reading her about page, it does feel as if you're reading about a cult, as first of all it is in the name, and second, the final paragraph on the page reads, "Welcome to the path that allows you to write your own story, and leave behind the oppressive chains of fate. The truth will persevere." As well as this, some people who have bought her products say they have chosen to be her loyal followers after feeling the effects for the first time. Doing a Google search of the name she gives only provides us with the website, so either she is relatively unknown and has basically no digital footprint, or the name she gives us is fake. Looking at Etsy's seller policy, we can find that these services shouldn't even be allowed on the platform as they are actually banned. The section reads that Etsy welcomes a wide variety of divination and spell-related items, however spell supplies may not offer metaphysical outcomes, which Lilith's do. We can prove this as they provide example of some metaphysical services that are prohibited, and she breaks almost all of these, including spellcasting, rituals, and items with a metaphysical outcome such as attracting wealth, love, and more. She seems to have dedicated enough followers that if she were to be banned from the platform that they would just follow her over to her website anyway, but how does this look for Etsy if they blatantly ignore their own rules? To make it worse, Lilith isn't the only one doing this, as Etsy provides us with a section titled "You May Also Like," which includes spells and rituals from a range of other sellers. Let's take the first one for example, which claims to be a love spell. This one is priced at just over £100, and there are 4 reviews, all of them being 5 stars. Once again, this is a blatant violation of the Etsy guidelines, yet the store has been upselling rituals since at least October 2021. To make it worse, Etsy are including these products in their promotions on other social media sites. While this is most likely automated, it's still a serious problem as it makes it look as if they condone these blatant scams. Spells and rituals are running riot on Etsy, but are they real? Probably not. It's likely that these spells are not real, and in my research, I have discovered that most people who do not buy into this believe that these apparent witches are using grieving people for money. The rules of the ritual make it seem as if they are avoiding bad reviews and feedback by saying that buyers need to stay positive in order for their spells to work, and this would explain the lack of negativity in the comments, but we obviously can't know for certain. To me, this appears like a huge scam, but I can't blame people for considering this to be a cult. I think that people are just experiencing things that were going to happen anyway and writing it off as a result of the spell. However, if someone can somehow prove me wrong, then I would love to hear it. Another possibility is that the seller is a master manipulator and is genuinely convincing these people that their spells have worked. However, that seems more unlikely than the first possibility. People are spending their hard-earned cash on worthless products that shouldn't be on the site in the first place. But what can you even do now? She's promoting her website, and I'm sure that people will just follow her over there if she were to be banned. This seems to be a serious problem on Etsy, and it needs to be taken care of sooner rather than later, before more vulnerable people are taken advantage of by scam artists promising to help solve their trauma in some way that will never work. Kevin Wesley is a YouTube channel that was created in December 2006, and last year, in 2022, he would upload a video that would showcase a new angle of one of the most horrific events to have ever occurred. The whole video is 8 minutes and 46 seconds long, and one of the key moments that it showcases is when the second plane hits the World Trade Center and the civilians' raw reactions as to what is occurring right in front of them. They would upload this video in the early 2000s, but it would be left private until OP would notice and show it to the masses. It's horrifying to hear people question what is happening, to have no knowledge that we do now. The fear, panic, and dread that they were feeling resonates from the video, and we can't even imagine how confused and terrified they must have been. This is easily the clearest and longest footage we have of the second plane hitting the building, and it's crazy to think that this may not be the only unseen footage of the event. Can you imagine how many other videos are maybe out there just waiting to see the light of day? Julia Faustina would become an internet celebrity almost overnight when she would amass 1 million followers on Instagram. Why? Because she made the bold claim that she was missing British girl Madeleine McCann. For those who don't know, Madeleine McCann was born on May 12, 2003. Her family would be on a trip to Portugal when they would leave their children alone, asleep in their ground floor apartment, while they dined in the restaurant 180 feet away. Regular checks were made on the children until Kate, Madeleine's mother, would check on the children at 10 PM that night to find Madeleine missing. In the weeks that followed, the Portuguese police would believe that Madeleine had perished in an accident and that the parents had covered it up. They were made suspects by the Portuguese police, but the case was archived due to lack of evidence. Investigations continued for private investigators until Scotland Yard would begin Operation Grange, dedicated to finding out the truth. Suspects were followed over the years, but no one was pinned for the crime, and the investigation was scaled back in 2015, with only significant leads being followed. In 2020, a suspect was arrested in Germany, and prosecutors were convinced that he was behind the crime. To this day, it has not been confirmed. Madeleine's parents were subject to a lot of allegations that they were involved in the disappearance, but they have flat out denied it. To this day, this case remains extremely well known and spoken about in the United Kingdom. Before we take a look at Julia, it's important to note some of Madeleine's identifying features. She has blonde hair, blue-green eyes, a small brown spot on her left calf, and a dark strip on the iris of her right eye, which has been noted as the most likely thing to identify her if she was ever to be identified. Now for Julia. Julia is a 21-year-old aspiring musician and model from Poland, living in Germany. Julia claims that she cannot remember a lot of information from her childhood and that she isn't sure of her exact age. She also claims to have never seen her birth certificate and that her mother acted strange when she requested to view it. So, what evidence does Julia have that she is Madeleine? She says that she first heard that she was Madeleine from her grandmother a few months prior to all of this. She also states many physical similarities going as far back as her childhood. She also says that a police sketch of a suspect in the crime looks oddly similar to her childhood abuser. She has requested that the McCann parents carry out a DNA test to know for sure, and just last week, a source close to the family said that they were heavily considering it. It seems as if this is no longer happening, however, and it is reported that Julia's family have also refused to partake in one. The girl reportedly wants to go to court in order to get one. The family of Julia have put down her claims, saying that she left their house with childhood photographs and documents that included her birth certificate. They stated, "For us as a family, it is obvious that Julia is our daughter, granddaughter, sister, niece, cousin, and stepniece. We have memories, we have pictures. Julia also has these photos because she took them from the family home with the birth certificate, as well as numerous hospital discharges. Julia once wanted to be a singer, a model. She always wanted to be popular. What's happening now is she got 1 million followers. The internet won't forget, and it's obvious that Julia isn't Maddie. We are devastated at this current situation." The Polish police have also said that they have ruled out any possibility of Julia's story carrying any weight. What do you think of all of this? Do you believe Julia's claims? Or do you believe people directly related to the case have shut her down? This is an ongoing situation, so it's likely that more information will come out very soon. And at the time of writing, Julia's account is still active on Instagram and is growing by the day. When the internet was born, so was a new form of bullying. Cyberbullying. 38% of people experience cyberbullying daily on social media sites, but what if your child was being harassed by an adult man? That is the case for many children who spend their time on YouTube. and the bully has become well known in children's communities. He is known as Max Cruz 73. To fully understand the situation, I need to introduce you to a subsection of YouTube. On one side of the platform, people are making videos teaching others how to carry out magic spells. These videos are clearly targeted at kids, so it's no surprise that the comment sections are filled with them. Now, let me ask you a question. What would you do if you had a disdain towards these videos? You would likely go watch something else, as would a lot of others, but not Max. In the comments of these videos, you'll likely find Max replying to kids, telling them that they're not intelligent, that they're naive and gullible, among a range of other insults. When someone calls him out on his actions, he claims that he's not bullying them because what he's saying is facts and logic. But the worst part of it all? He doesn't back down. He keeps arguing day after day until the child has had enough and eventually gives up. So what kind of man would dedicate hours of his life to beefing children on the internet? Well, Max claims that he is a highly intelligent man who has 9 years of education beyond high school under his belt. Despite his intelligence, he has found enough time to have been doing this on the internet for over 10 years. He responds to comments quickly, sometimes within just 10 minutes, so these comment threads can go on for hours at a time. User LeBigBoy, who brought this mystery to the Internet Mysteries subreddit, has prior experience with Max. Opie said, "I've never seen a man so hell-bent on harassing children in my life. He harassed me and my friends as kids, and even now that we're fully grown adults, he's still at it. The most disturbing part of this whole thing is that some of the kids feel as though they've done something wrong and send their sincerest apologies to Max." This is the case on one video, where he comments saying that he accepts the uploader's apology and that he forgives them for their prior actions. The likely conclusion to this whole thing is that Max is someone with very little power and influence in their day-to-day life. This may lead to him feeling insignificant, and so he gets a buzz from feeling powerful over kids on the internet. This is no excuse though, and it is genuinely creepy how long he has been carrying this out. I do think that he should be looked into and probably banned from YouTube, as surely this has got to be against their TOS in some way. But until then, Max Cruz will continue to be a menace to the spell community, and sadly, he will continue his hobby of being a relentless cyberbully. In 2005, a documentary was released titled Bangkok Girl, directed by Jordan Clark. The film dived into the world of sex work in Bangkok, with a young woman named Pla guiding the host around the city. Pla, who was 19 years old at the time of filming, had been working as a bar girl since the age of 13. The documentary dove into her background, where she currently was in life, and the struggles that she faced. One thing that she revealed to Clark is that a lot of women are forced into prostitution from a young age, but that she managed to avoid that life and is still managing to avoid that fate during the filming. So why am I telling you about this obscure, low-budget film from the early 2000s? Well, because last year, a Redditor found out that it had seemingly vanished from the face of the earth. In a post made to the Internet Mysteries subreddit, user PillowTalk56 said, "I decided to rewatch the documentary. Nothing. Nowhere to buy. I have tried all the sites where you can usually watch movies for free." Despite the film being classified as a piece of lost media, it wasn't necessarily the documentary itself that people were interested in, but rather the fate of Pla. In the years that followed the release of the film, Clark didn't partake in any official interviews, so he was unable to be questioned on the girl's fate. That was until 10 years later, when the Thailand Life managed to snag an exclusive interview with him. During their questioning, they asked him about his relationship with Pla. He stuck by that it was a platonic relationship, but that she changed his life and that he thinks about her every day. A few questions later, they inquired about what happened to Pla, questioning if she was actually dead. He responded by saying that no matter what he says, people's opinions will be unchanged, and that if he were to answer the question, then he would need to release private information, which he wasn't going to do. So that's the end of the story, right? Pla passed away after the filming, and Clark doesn't want to talk about it. Makes sense, but that may not be the case. In a film review posted to the site Vanity Tours, the writer includes an interesting quote at the end. The quote that he uses is an apparent statement from one of Pla's friends. It reads, "Pla is alive and well, living a very successful married life outside of Thailand, with the ability to come and go as she pleases. The content of Jordan Clark's trash may turn out to be very damaging to her and her loved ones." The writer does not include how they sourced this quote from the alleged friend, so I did some digging of my own. The earliest instance of this on the internet dates back to 2007, when a user reviewed the film on IMDb. They write down 4 points, and the first one matches up with the beginning of the quote. But since the article was after this review, this begs another question. How does this user know what happened to Pla? Or are they simply guessing off the top of their head? So let's run the theory that she's not dead. According to people who know much more about sex work in Thailand than I do, apparently, it can be common for bar girls to fake their deaths if they no longer want to speak to someone. Of course, I'm not talking about a full-on fake funeral, but simply telling other bar girls to say, "Yup, she's dead," if someone were to ask. The writer claims to have seen written accounts of Pla's family and friends stating that she is alive. But again, he doesn't provide evidence to back this up, apart from the quote at the end without a source. So, is Clark telling the truth about her death? Or did she finally make it out of the existence she found herself in and is living a much happier life elsewhere? I suppose it's up to you to make your own theory on what you think happened to Pla. Strange Twitter profiles aren't out of the ordinary, but one popped up recently that disturbed quite a few users. A Twitter user, whose name I will blur for reasons that will become apparent later, posted this strange tweet that drew some traction. "Some men came into my house and did this to me," it read. Attached to the tweet were photographs of a man with his legs chained together. He recorded a 40-second video to further prove the dire situation that he found himself in. The video was posted along with a tweet that revealed what seemed to be his full address. He claims a short while later that the police came round to his house and drove him to the station, but that he was still bound in chains. Finally, he gave everyone following his story the update that they needed to rest easy, that he was in hospital, being treated for his wounds. He claims that he also got some insight into who was behind the situation, claiming that the orchestrator of the whole thing was a pastor whose idea of prayer was to break the user's hands and legs. But how the hell did this all start? And what is actually going on here? To give us an idea, let's look back at the user's profile. His first tweet was made on the 27th of December, and he tells the story of why he left his home country of Nigeria. He discovered that people had completely disregarded his privacy by installing hidden cameras inside his home. He reported this to the police, and they claimed that they couldn't do anything due to a lack of evidence. Eventually, he hired a lawyer and managed to get the police to do a sweep of his apartment. They never said if they found anything, but simply advised the user to leave the country and go somewhere else. And that he did, by moving to Morocco. While in Morocco, he went through some disturbing experiences and eventually ended up back in Nigeria after his elder brother proposed that if he were to move back to his home country, he would send him the money for a new laptop, as well as monthly payments to keep him going and focused on his dream of a career in programming. When he moved back, he found himself once again believing that his new apartment had been infiltrated. In the final tweet added to the thread, he says, "I know this sounds like a made-up story, but this is a story of my life, and I really need help." He links his GitHub profile, as well as begging the Nigerian police to get involved in the situation. As well as the tweet, he also made a blog post titled "Egregious Abuse of Human Rights." The post contains his full name and his address in Nigeria, the same one that he used in the tweet. One Twitter user visited his house, and it seems as though he may have had an episode and his family sent some people to help him. Despite this seeming likely, he is adamant that he did not have an episode and that the men were not part of his family. So, if we had to take a guess, this seems like someone with a serious mental illness, with a lot of people saying that it shows a lot of symptoms of schizophrenia. This person hasn't posted since January 31st, and we can only hope that they got the help that they needed, both physically, financially, and mentally. I'm telling you this because if a post like this were to show up on your feed, what would you do? As a lot of you, myself included, are interested in internet mysteries, you may assume ARG, but sometimes the reality is more disturbing. Mental illness makes a lot of people's lives a living hell, so I'm truly praying that the user is on the path to a better life. Back in 2010, Redditors witnessed a man fall into addiction right before their very eyes. His username was SpontaneousH, and he decided to try hard drugs after being intrigued by the prospect of doing them. In an Ask Me Anything post, he says that he is a 24-year-old in a well-paying job. While out and about, he stopped walking to check his messages, and a dealer approached him, asking him if he needed any drugs. Feeling like he had never taken any risks in his life, he decided to buy some weed. After the dealer made sure he wasn't a police officer, he gave him a location to meet him, and OP made his way there. After arriving, the dealer told him what was on offer, and one of his options was heroin. OP had heard so much about the drug, and it began to intrigue him, so he asked the dealer if he could purchase some. The dealer handed it over, and OP made his way home, ready to try the drug that he had so easily acquired. After arriving back home, he snorted a small line of heroin, and after a few minutes, a wave of relaxation came over him, and he claims to have felt amazing, describing it as a full body orgasm times 10. He ends the post by saying that he finally understands how people can get addicted to the drug so easily, but in an edit, begs the commenters not to lecture him on how he is going to be addicted. Although he was confident that he could avoid addiction, little did he know what would happen in the months that followed. 2 weeks later, he made another post to the subreddit. 2 weeks ago, I tried heroin once for fun and made an Ask Me Anything I have been using since and shot up for the first time today. After 2 weeks, he was experiencing withdrawals and felt the urge to relapse and use the drug again. He says that his girlfriend essentially broke up with him after finding out he had been using hard drugs, and that he is now feeling like he wants to die. Sadly, things would continue to get worse for OP as he would fall further into his addiction. Over a year later, he returned to Reddit with another post. I'm a heroin addict with bipolar disorder, heading to rehab tomorrow, all because I didn't listen to Reddit. I overdosed 1 week ago, and I'm in a psychiatric hospital. OP had technically died from a fentanyl overdose, but was revived by doctors. If he was found even 10 minutes later than he was, then he would have been gone. After this final post, he disappeared from the platform, leaving us with some of the most unsettling posts ever to be made on the site. Until 2017, 7 years later, when he returned with an update. He says that he was totally out of his mind at the time, but that he is happy to report that he is now 6 years clean of all drugs and alcohol. He had managed to turn his life around before it was too late. After this post, he disappeared again, but returned once more in 2021 to confirm that he was still alive and clean. So, take this as a warning. Drugs like heroin may sound like a fun time if you only do it once, but it's never only once. The line between trial and addiction is so thin that you risk crossing it no matter how mentally strong you believe yourself to be. If you are considering doing anything that has potentially life-ruining consequences and this video has made its way onto your feed, it's not worth it. Take this as a sign from the universe to stop. Hopefully, SpontaneousH can continue to live a fruitful life, full of great memories and no more addictions. At the end of March 2022, a Reddit user by the name of Florian Klassen would prepare for a night shift at the bunker he worked at. On this particular night, he was feeling more sluggish than usual, but nevertheless he continued on with his editing job, blocking out the world with a pair of headphones. At breaks in his work, he would hear some sounds. It sounded like music, but that would be impossible. He's the only one at the bunker at that time of night. So he would brush it off as he was tired after all, and continue on with his work. The time was around 1 AM, and Florian would decide that he needed a break. He got up from his workspace and made his way to a private area where he could smoke. On his way there, he swore he could hear music again, and this time he was convinced that it wasn't his mind playing tricks on him, as it was clear as day. He approached the door, pushed down the handle, and it opened. The music got extremely loud, like someone was playing it from somewhere in the area. The private area is a stairwell used to transport heavy cargo that won't fit in an elevator. From Florian's position, the stairs lead up and down. But he also notes that the only other floor to have direct access to that stairwell is the bottom, so therefore the source of the music should be able to be located if he goes down there. Florian made his way down the long staircase. He was determined to find out who was down there, if only to tell them that their music was beautiful, but they couldn't be here. As he stepped down maybe 5 steps, the music would abruptly stop, and the only remaining sounds in the area would be clattering from what he only assumed to be someone handling a string instrument, which adds up, as the music to him definitely sounded like it was coming from a violin. He continued down the stairs, and eventually made it to the bottom. There were no open doors, and the area looked deserted. There was absolutely no signs that someone had been here at all. Defeated, Florian made his way back up the long staircase. He stepped foot in his hallway, almost brushing it off as more sleep deprivation. But just as he did, the music started back up. He immediately turned around and went down the stairs again. He made it to the bottom and once again no one was there. The area looked exactly as it did the last time. His confusion turned to being creeped out, and he checked every single door on every single floor, plus the out-of-service elevator to see if there's any way someone could have gotten inside the bunker. But, as expected, all of the doors were locked, and the elevator remained unusable. He made his way back up to his floor without any answers, but he had a plan to wait on the stairs in an attempt to catch someone opening a door or stepping into the stairwell, if not to just prove to himself that he's not crazy. He waited, and waited, and waited, but no one came, and it remained silent. He gave up. He still has work to do after all, and stepped foot into his hallway. But as the door was pushed open by Florian, ready to save him from the confusion and eeriness, he heard someone plucking strings, and then shortly after, the music picked back up, even louder than the previous times. He quickly went to the bottom once more just to find nothing. Again. He felt like he was going crazy, so for the rest of the night he brushed it off as him being tired to the point where he was hallucinating. Until the next morning, when he realised he had recorded it. The video is definitely creepy, and I would be freaked out if I heard that at night and knew I was alone. OP seems to have handled it well, even providing updates to the situation with much needed details. Florian says in an update that it's definitely not a recording on play, as he regularly hears someone tuning an instrument and stopping if they play the wrong note. He 100% believes it is being played live. He notes that only he and his boss have access to that stairwell, and in the video you can clearly hear how loud footsteps are while OP was walking down the stairs. But at no point in the video could you hear footsteps from another person, even when the music stopped, which would be borderline impossible as it's a huge stairwell and echoes would be guaranteed. Just because we couldn't hear footsteps doesn't mean that OP did not, however. In an update, OP says that once again they heard the music being played softly. He yelled out that he liked the music and questioned their identity. But as soon as that happened, there was a loud noise and the sound of something heavy being dragged across the floor. OP would then hear footsteps that would gradually become quieter and quieter. OP would make his way down to the bottom floor, and nothing again. He suspects he fled through the broken elevator, but to confirm he would have to investigate, but that's for later. He went back to his office and wrote the owner of the building explaining the situation. He thinks that he spooked the intruder away for good, but only time will tell if that is true. OP went back down to the bottom of the staircase, where he would do another thorough search of the area. He mentions that there is one door downstairs that he didn't check, as it tends to make sounds and it creeps him out. He's always brushed off the sounds as there's a draft in the bunker, and that could be the cause. But with the current situation, he decides to open the door and find out what's behind it. He opens it, and it seems to be an empty room. But he goes in, and to the left, there is another staircase leading up. It seems to lead to nowhere though, as it's blocked off by a sheet of metal. OP pushes the metal to the side and discovers an area with some items. That's not the end, however, as the stairs continue until they reach a wall, and a seemingly unstable one at that. OP notices a small gap in the top corner of the wall. He uses a box to get his camera to look over, and he records the following video. As you just heard, at the end of the video there was a sound. OP originally thought that the sound was of someone kicking something, and while that is definitely a possibility, he now believes it to simply be something that fell. As you saw in the video, OP couldn't film much as it was quite a reach to get over the wall, but OP went back to his office and made a rig to hold his phone so that he could get a better view. He wouldn't discover much else on the second recording, however, as he would find that the room is blocked off by a bit of wood. He also found a small ladder which he believes a person could have possibly used to get over the wall. To me, this seems very unlikely, however, as, like OP says, the gap is quite small, and there's also a layer of dust covering the area which appears to be undisturbed. The next day, OP would take a ladder and explore the room some more. They would find some diapers, along with a musical instrument, possibly a bongo, but not the violin they were desperately searching for. With their newfound discoveries, they made their way back down the ladder, but they would notice a ventilation shaft in front of them which would appear to have a lot of space behind it. OP went back to his office and found the blueprints for the bunker. With these, he would discover that the area was actually used to supply ammo to the top of the bunker all those years ago, and all of those areas were shut off and left to be forgotten. OP would leave the bunker after another night of horrible experiences, and the next morning he would question his boss on who had a key, as to OP's knowledge it was only him and the boss. OP didn't mention if the boss gave him an answer on this or not, but what his boss did say was that the area was off limits, and basically just said not to go down there anymore. This didn't ease OP's nerves at all, and they continued to explore the bunker. They would go IA for a few days, providing little updates, but soon enough, they would return with a video update that would terrify viewers.
Alright, so this has been the elevator I've been telling you guys about, and it's been stuck underground for a couple of days. And I just discovered that you may actually have some sort of entrance through this little door there, but let's just... no fucking way for me to open this thing, so I might need a key or something to get back to this. All the while, let me actually show you. Yeah. How fucking cool is that? I love that. So, yeah, if any of you can tell me what kind of lock that is, I just feel like I could stick something in there that just has like a little bit of a triangle hole thingy and open this up. And apparently it's supposed to go up there. I mean, as a ladder or something. I don't know if this is only for maintenance work, but yeah, I suspect that this may be the only escape route for anyone who may have gained access in here. And so I'll go check that out. And yeah, just for you to know, this is sort of where it all started. So let me just show you real quick once I arrive. So this is where the music originally came from, right here. And you can see quite clearly. Oh, fuck.
This is the first time that we're able to hear footsteps and noises of the intruder. They seem to run across the door at the end of the hallway as OP steps foot into it. It definitely seems like a real person now rather than a ghost. The main point of this video, and the reason why OP started recording it in the first place, was to show how the hatch in the elevator can only be unlocked by using a triangle-shaped key of some sort. He shows that it's firmly locked, and it only recently became usable again. After seeing the person in the doorway, he immediately called the people responsible for making sure only permitted people are in the bunker. They said that they'd do a thorough check of the building, and they did, but they didn't find anyone, and also claimed that the doors that will be filmed through were locked shut. After the experience the previous day, OP was obviously a bit scared to step foot in the bunker, but he needed to use the printer, so he had no choice. He made his way to the office, printed what he came to print, and made his way back to the exit. As he quickly walked down the corridor, he heard a noise, a banging of some sort, from the exact place the violin played previously. He ran down the stairs, and as he did, a thought came into his head. The bongo. The bongo was down there. As soon as that thought came into his head, the sound stopped, but he continued descending the stairs, reached for the handle to open the creepy door, and behind it sat the bongo. After watching the video back, OP would notice that something appears to be slightly moving the door handle before OP grabs it. In fact, you can hear a small noise during this period of the video, which could be the noise of the door handle twitching. After this experience, OP took the bongo and put it in a storage room, hoping to never have to hear it again. OP would return to the bunker after venturing out to get food. When he got close to what I assumed to be his office, he heard the dreaded sound of a bongo. When OP is unlocking the door, you can hear a loud noise from inside the room. When he is zooming out on the camera, you can also hear slight noises in the background. These noises could be from OP, but if this is an intruder, then it could be them making their escape. OP confirmed that this is the same bongo that he put in the storage room previously, and if I was him, I would be very disturbed. At the time of writing, this is the last update that OP has put out, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is much more to come. So, the burning question on everyone's mind is this real? Well, while I can't provide a definitive answer, I can provide some evidence for you to make your own conclusion. OP's account is 3 years old, which is a positive when someone makes a post like this, as ones made from burner accounts usually prove to be fake. Looking through his post history, we can see he has posted in subreddits such as VFX and deepfakes, and he seems to be relatively good at making deepfakes. A user brought this up and he claims that he can only swap faces and the like, but the fact he works in a film studio located in the bunker as an editor certainly doesn't go in his favour in support of this being real. The video that makes me think this is fake the most is the video he captured of the apparent intruder or ghost walking across the doorway. This video seems way too good to be true, but it very well could be. I'm not an expert in visual effects, nor do I claim to be, and I definitely can't spot when a video has been tampered with, but to me the figure moves weirdly. It's dark and grainy however, so it's hard to tell. In some videos there are footsteps and in others there aren't. This is weird and it seems inconsistent, like it can't decide if it's a person or a ghost. There's another inconsistency I've noticed in the story, as in the original post, Obi says that the elevator has been out of service for almost a year, but in the video with the figure, he says that it's only been a couple of days. After some searching around the internet, we can find Florian's website, which shows us his specialties of film, deepfakes and music. Finding his IMDb will also tell us that he previously worked on special effects for a short film called Fields. So, a cinematographer, composer, and someone that's dipped into special and seemingly visual effects discovers something creepy in a bunker. This could all be a huge coincidence, and I'm not saying that Florian is faking this. Like I said, I'm simply providing some evidence for you to make your own conclusion. If this is real or fake, it's very well done in my opinion. From the written updates to the videos, this is grounded in reality and definitely makes for a creepy viewing experience. So, what do you think? Nokia2mon2 was a mysterious person on the forums. He began his profile to buy spyware, but later on would offer relatively large sums of money for services. He evidently had a lot of money, due to the $500 monthly salary he was willing to pay for a professional DDoS job, as well as paying upwards of $300 for hacked email accounts and $100 each for spyware. Users knew he was legit too, as he had one of the most important awards on his profile, the Master Donator Award, which heavily implied that he wasn't just a poor pretender. This would be proven when he would launch his first contest, a giveaway for two of the most prestigious ranks on the forum, Elite and Uber. Upgrades can be bought for any user on the site. It gives them many abilities, such as the ability to change your username, removal of certain restrictions, exclusive forums, and many more. To upgrade an account to Elite permanently, it costs $35 if paid with a credit card, and $30 if paid with crypto. It isn't possible to upgrade to Uber permanently, however, you can purchase a 1-year membership for $30. It's possible that it was previously more expensive, however, as prior to 2018, it was a permanent upgrade similar to Elite. This means that this first giveaway alone would cost him around $340. It seems odd that an account created 3 months prior would be giving back on this scale to the community, but he must have had a brilliant experience with them, and it seemed that at this point, he was definitely starting to become integrated with the members. It seemed that he had a kind heart too. He hadn't just spent money on account upgrades and malware, but he had also donated to users with great and helpful ideas, such as one person that planned to create a website to help victims of bullying and to potentially prevent teenage suicides. Nokia2mon2 put $200 into the project, and I'm sure that it went a long way. His support for the community just kept going, as he would soon up the giveaway winners from 5 to 9 to 32. They just got bigger as time went on. It's understandable that in the business of hacking and illegal activities, people are very apprehensive with who they get involved with. Nokia had this issue at first, but by the end of 2010, whenever he wanted to purchase something, it would be relatively easy for him, as he had the community vouching for him. Anyone that doubted him was sure to be proven wrong. How could anyone doubt him? In many cases, he had spent thousands on software, and spent even more giving back to the people trusting him. Over the next few years, he would donate thousands, offer outrageous prices for accounts on popular video games, and ask users to help him exchange up to $10,000 into Bitcoin. He had truly gained the community's trust, and they all seemed to love him. While the majority of the community were lovely, some people attempted to take advantage of his kindness, and it actually worked. One of the first examples of this would take place in his first 2 years on the platform, when he would be scammed out of $150 trying to get a hacked Hotmail password. He would take a hit from this, but with the money he had, it was simply a blip, and he seemed to continue business as usual. In 2015, however, he would be hit much harder, when in an attempt to exchange Bitcoin, he would lose $3,000 to a scammer. A user spending this much money and also losing a lot of it in the process got some members questioning where the money came from. He never gave a true answer, but theories were wild, with some suspecting that he was an active criminal, while most put it down to just a man with a lot of money and hatred for certain people. It was common not to question him, however, as a lot simply recognised him as that Uber that gives away a lot of upgrades and spends a lot of money. He wouldn't stop either. Over the next year, he would continue his Bitcoin adventures. He would attempt to buy 1,000 Bitcoin for $1,800, and he would succeed. He would attempt to exchange $8,000 to Bitcoin, and once again, he would succeed. He would exchange even more, and donate once again. Shortly after, he would request a coder to create a YouTube bot. A seemingly normal request, but one that would become well known to many. What looked like a regular user, with a large source of cash, would soon turn out to be much more. From here, Nokia 212 would disappear and give birth to one of the darkest internet mysteries. Users would speculate on what happened to him, but none of them would get it right. That's because the story of Nokia 212 has a most unlikely conclusion. One that would shock the people he got involved with, and any outsiders that ended up stumbling upon his posts. Meet Saud Al-Qahtani, an Arabian consultant and former royal court advisor. He is also the person behind the account of Nokia 212. Saud, born on July 7th, 1978, was a very promising child. He would grasp his potential at a young age and go on to be a great student, eventually working his way up to leaving university with a bachelor's degree in law. He would continue his great run by graduating from the Royal Saudi Air Force as a sergeant. He would then attend another university shortly after and receive a master's degree in criminal justice. Subsequently, with how qualified he seemed to be, he was hired as an advisor to the Deputy Chief of the Royal Court, which he felt was a brilliant reward for his hard work through previous jobs and in education. Throughout the years, he would work his way up the ranks, serving as a legal advisor, media monitor, and advisor to the Royal Court. Let's take a step back and focus on his time responsible for media monitoring and having control of, as one official put it, an electronic army. He was appointed to the role in 2008. A year later, in 2009, Nokia 212 would be created. Saud was smart with his identity. He kept it a secret the whole time he was on the site and only let it slip once during an ongoing deal. Considering he was on the site between the years of 2009 to 2016, and how active he was in that time, that is a very impressive feat. But just because he was smart with keeping his name a secret doesn't mean that he kept much else private. He disclosed his apparent age, when he started using remote access Trojans, and that he was from Saudi Arabia. For someone in such an important role, Saud wasn't the smartest when it came to scams. His first day on the site, he would make a post where he announced that he had purchased a Trojan from a user on the forum called Stronger7. Hello, I registered at Hack Forum today. I found the site through Google. I was searching for an FUD server. When I read this article, I added Stronger7 and MSN. I paid him through PayPal, and after he took the money, he gave me the full version that was encrypted client and server. He taught me how to use the Trojan, and it was very easy. I tested the server in scanner.novirusthanks.org, and it is really FUD. I'm happy for my deal, and I want to thank Stronger7 for the great FUD and great learning. I'm sure I will make many deals with him in the future, and I'm happy to register on this great site. Thanks, Stronger7. His appreciation for Stronger7 would soon reach its end, however, as Saud's computer would get infected by a virus. Users deciphered that the most likely cause of it was whatever Saud bought from Stronger. It took him a little to believe it, but he had eventually realised he had fallen for his first scam, and some sources say that Stronger was later banned from the forums for good. He would soon fall for more scams. I mentioned some of them at the beginning, but in 2015, his account would actually get hacked, and it would be the post about $8,000 in Bitcoin that gave it away. Users noticed that Nokia's IP address had changed, but it was too late, as someone had already fallen for the scam, and the hacker had received $500 from an unsuspecting community member. He returned 2 weeks later, and he claimed to have fixed what the scammer did under my name so no one got harmed because of my mistake. However, this could have been truly dangerous for Saud, as it could have revealed his identity to the world, and his anonymity would be shattered. Thankfully for him, this wasn't the case. On the surface, it seems that Saud wasn't exactly experienced in the use of illegal software. It's noted by many that the forums are used by low-level hackers, and the equipment is apparently quite easy to use, or at least the easy ones were what he opted for. He was successful in his attempts to DDoS. While he never named the sites, he alleged that he took down a site for up to 48 hours, and that he forced a victim to change the hosting provider. This took him a while, however, as in the past he had many failed attempts, such as one time where he writes that the administrator blocked his connections from all but one country, forcing him to stop and find a whole new provider years later. If you don't know what a rat is, it's a type of malware that allows an attacker to remotely control a computer, and Saud was used a lot throughout his time. One of the more notable ones he used was actually the main point of an operation carried out by the US Department of Justice. Its name is Black Shades, and the seizure of it resulted in more than 90 people being arrested all over the world, including the co-creator, who coincidentally was also a member of the hack forums. Saud took his role extremely seriously. He was a media monitor, and he would do everything in his power to hush any critics of the kingdom, including seeking out tools to help him do so. He made many posts requesting tools that could delete or suspend accounts on multiple social media sites. The main sites mentioned were Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. He wanted to suspend Twitter accounts at will, as well as a YouTube channel and other videos. He found someone for the job, and he chose to delete over 20 videos from the site. He was enlightened by members of the forum community that a tool to ban Twitter users didn't exist, and that the only way it would be possible would be to have access to the Twitter database. He took this on board, and instead of backing down, he used his influence to convince a Twitter employee to look into the private information of many Twitter accounts, or so it is reported. He didn't just want to delete content from YouTube and Twitter, however, as he also sought a tool that could allow engagement. He wanted to bot likes, followers, and video views, and he wanted the tool to be personal to him. He also attempted to purchase software that would show the IP address of anyone playing Facebook games with him. He claimed that he would use this to kick bad players from the game. Along with this, he offered to buy an 8-ball pool account with 1 billion coins for the outrageous price tag of $700. While some of his purchases were petty, Saud had an interest in the hacking of passwords. He paid up to $1,500 for the hack of accounts of the popular website Hotmail, and he also showed interest in cracking Wi-Fi passwords. His main interest definitely involved spyware and malware, but a serious lapse in his judgment would come back to bite him. Saud used many sites to host botnets and the like. The following list of domains were all registered by him. Let me introduce you to a website called Whois. It is a website that can be used to identify the owner of a domain and how you can get in contact with them. Saud made the serious mistake of linking these domains with him. All but 3 of the domains contained either his real name, variants of it, his personal email address, or his phone number. He also was caught using his personal information for the domain names, his email accounts, and also one social media profile. In one case, he also used the name Nokia212 on a domain, therefore linking him with her hack forums profile beyond any doubt. Some reports claim that he had accounts on multiple different forums for hacking. However, it's likely that hack forums is where he was most active, which is why it's the most well known of his profiles. His personal information was also connected to a LinkedIn profile, multiple Facebook accounts, a Snapchat, and a WhatsApp. Over some of his profiles, we can see a pattern. Him changing some of his information or hiding his identity fully is very common, and Nokia212 seems to have been his main alias, or at least in hacking groups. Attempting to purchase hacking material is one thing, but crimes go much worse than that. And sadly, the world would understand that when Saud would be revealed for the monster he truly is. The Saudi Rapid Intervention Force, a group made up of monsters. They were active for many years, and their main responsibility was the oversight of Saudi citizens by any means necessary. Saud is reported to be the instrumental figure in many horrific crimes over the years, the first of many being the Saudi Arabian Purge. In 2017, an anti-corruption committee would be created. In the following weeks, mass arrests would occur of a number of prominent figures in politics and business. The targets were lured to a luxury hotel where they were detained and pressured to give up all their assets. They were threatened with torture and arrested. In 2018, things just got worse, however. Meet Lujain Al-Hatlul, a Saudi women's rights activist. She has been an activist for many years, and she is mainly known for defying the female driving ban and opposing the male guardianship system. The kingdom didn't take kindly to her defiance, however, and in 2018 she would be kidnapped from the United Arab Emirates and deported to Saudi Arabia, where she would be arrested and put under a travel ban. Several other activists, men and women, were also arrested. They would soon be subject to extreme torture, such as being beaten, electrocuted, and waterboarded. On the 10th of February 2021, almost 3 years after she had been arrested, she was released from prison. However, she was still subject to a travel ban. Why am I telling you all of this, you may wonder? Well, Saud played a huge role in the story. He oversaw the torture of the activists, including that of Lujain, and he personally visited her torture on one occasion, where he threatened to rape, murder, and dump her body. This is Jamal Khashoggi. Jamal was a Saudi journalist, and he was amazing at what he did. He covered the huge stories for multiple big outlets, and he was very likeable in the eyes of the country. For a long time, he was very close to the Saudi royals, and at one point was even an advisor for the government. This wouldn't last, as he would begin to question their views on certain subjects, which was the wrong move, and essentially forced them to relocate to the United States of America. In 2017, he would begin writing for the Washington Post. The Saudi kingdom saw Jamal as a critic that had to be dealt with swiftly, with a bullet, in the prince's own words. He would be harassed by people over the internet for his criticism of the Saudi regime. His phone was also allegedly being monitored during this time using spyware. He continued to write articles and took a journey to Istanbul on the 2nd of October 2018. His purpose there was to visit the Saudi Arabian consulate to gather documents about his upcoming marriage. He arrived, but people noticed that he didn't leave. Shortly after, he was declared a missing person. News reports all over the world claimed that he had been dismembered inside the building. The Saudi government denied any involvement. They claimed that Jamal had left the building alive. Eventually, the Saudi government did a 180 and launched an investigation into the disappearance. They reported that Jamal had been forcibly restrained after a struggle, injected with a large amount of a drug, and as a result overdosed and died. His body was dismembered and disposed of. The struggle had been caused by the attackers attempting to kidnap Jamal, and while the prince still denies any involvement in the murder, some theorise that he was the one that called for it to happen. As a result of the murder, 18 Saudis were taken into custody. By the end of 2020, 16 people were sentenced, 5 officials were sentenced to death, and the remaining 11 were sentenced to prison with their sentences ranging from 7 to 24 years. The US response to the assassination was a mixed bag. By that I mean, the opinions of US officials and the president at the time were very different. The CIA leaked that it had come to the conclusion that the Prince bin Salman had ordered the assassination. The president at the time, Donald Trump, refused to believe the CIA's conclusion. In fact, he even denied that they had come to one. He then went on record to say that, in any case, our relationship is with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Representatives from both American political parties were outraged at his statements. Some officials accused him of lying about the findings. The US Senate would pass a resolution that held the prince responsible for the death of Jamal. This was in opposition of the Trump administration's stance on the matter. The Senate also voted to end US military aid for the situation in Yemen that was led by the Saudis. Trump would go on to meet the prince in his time as president, where they would discuss matters such as the military, but completely avoid the topic of the assassination. It was previously requested that the Trump administration declassify the US report on the assassination of Jamal. They refused to do this, however, even though they were legally required to do so, and it wasn't until the Biden administration was set to take over that it was finally released. Here is what it says. Since 2017, the Crown Prince has had absolute control of the kingdom's security and intelligence organisations, making it highly unlikely that Saudi officials would have carried out an operation of this nature without the Crown Prince's authorisation. And on the second page of the report, there he is, Saud al-Qahtani. US intelligence identified Saud as the main man behind the assassination of Jamal and as the head of the RIF. It was discovered that Saud played a huge part in luring Jamal back to Saudi Arabia. He had been in contact with him for the months leading up to his death, but did he really do it behind the prince's back? It doesn't seem likely. Saud was dismissed as a supervisor of media affairs after the assassination had been carried out. He had organised the whole operation. He had met with the assassins before they were sent to Istanbul. He oversaw the murder over Skype. He had been speaking to the prince before and after the assassination. He had answered a phone call from the assassins to tell him that it had been carried out. He wasn't arrested. He was cleared of any charges. A warrant for his arrest was issued by Turkey, and they requested that Saudi Arabia extradite Saud. They refused, claiming that they don't extradite their citizens, and shortly after, Saudi state news revealed that while he was being investigated, all charges were dropped as there was no proof of involvement. A story that started on an obscure hacking forum would result in one of the users being found out to be involved in an assassination plot in a report carried out by the US government. Users that he interacted with were shocked when they heard the news. Someone who was described as generous, kind, and charitable would be involved in overseeing the torture, rape, and threatening of activists, as well as being the leading man for what is essentially a murder group. Saud's profile remains up, but inactive to this day. His last visit to the site was in 2016. He will always be remembered as the third top donor of the site, and he has really put himself in its history. What looked to be a kind man on the surface would actually turn out to be a monster that no one ever thought he could be. It seems that Saud will sadly never be held responsible for the crimes he committed, as he was cleared, and his whereabouts are unknown, although it's reported that he is privately working for the kingdom, as the prince is allegedly still fond of him. Nokia 212 will probably never be active again, but it's definitely secured its place as one of the most disturbing accounts in internet history. Thank you so much for making it this far in the video. A huge shout out to you, but also to my Patreon supporters Morrigan, Brooke, Entreprenaut, K4 Silver, and Alex Rod. If you want to support me over there, you can watch all of my videos early, and your support allows me to keep doing what I do. Hopefully you enjoyed enough to subscribe and like the video, I'd really appreciate it, but that's all from me for today, and I will see you in the next one.